Hey there, drone fans. Rick here again from Drone Valley. This is the second installment in a series of clips I'll be posting on the Mavic Mini. In this video, I'll be taking a closer look at the technology behind the Mavic Mini, and I'll spend a few minutes with each of the components, explaining what they're about, how they work, how you connect to them, how they relate to other components, so you have all the information you need to enjoy your new Mavic Mini. Now, we'll also point out some of the unique features that DJI has built into this drone as I go through this overview, so you really understand just how special this product is. So stay tuned. Now I'll take a closer look at each of the components included with the kit, and we can start with the aircraft. Here I have the Mavic Mini in its folded position, and you can see pretty quickly just how small a form factor this drone really has when it's folded up. As a matter of fact, my hand can completely hide that drone, so that should give you a really good idea of just how small and portable this product is and how easy it'll be to slide it into a backpack or a purse to take it along on your next trip. Now, to use the drone, you have to extend its arms, and to do that, you'll pick it up and hold it by the body gently, and you'll swing the top two arms out. So I'll swing that one out, and I'll swing this one out. Now, one thing I want to point out is when you hit that middle point in its travel, the spring in the hinge is going to kick in, and the tendency is to let it go and let it snap into position on its own. I'm going to recommend you don't do that because the inertia of that flying open like that is going to put undue stress at the hinge point, and it's going to crack it over time. So if you want to use the drone for a long time, hold on to it and make sure you follow it all the way through its travel. Once the top two are extended, the bottom two spin down and towards you. So again, hold the body, hold them all the way through their travel, and then when they're fully extended, you're ready to go. Now, I do want to point a few things out before I talk about how the battery goes in and all the other things. And let's start with the propellers because they're right here on top. You'll notice that the propellers have screws holding them into the motor. Now, if you've flown any other DJI drones, they're typically held in with like a quick release where you hold the motor and you spin it down and clip it in there. And here you actually have to replace these propellers by pulling the screws out. And I think they did that. I'm sure they did that actually to keep the weight down and probably the cost down as well. So it's not a big deal, but it's important to understand that there's two different type of propellers on here. There's a clockwise and a counterclockwise. And the way you'll know the difference is on the tip of this one, there are two stripes, and the tip of this one, a single stripe. And you'll notice the single stripes are across from each other and the dual stripes are across from each other. So when you change those propellers out, you got to make sure you get the same type of propeller to replace the one that's broken or chipped. The other thing I'll recommend is that when you pull these guys out, throw the propellers out and throw the screws out, because the new set of propellers comes with 6 screws, so you'll have plenty of screws to replace, and you don't want to just change one of the two blades. Just to be safe, change them both in a pair. So make sure you line those up. Now, one other thing I'll point out, I don't know if you can catch this on the camera or not, but inside on the edge here, there's a little line right on that propeller, and the other propeller with the single stripe on the end doesn't have that line. So that's another indication. If you look on the arm, there's a little line there that'll tell you that you want to line up the line on the propeller with the line on the arm. So if you take them all off, don't do this, but if you take all the propellers off and throw them in a drawer and then want to put new ones on there, at least you'll know that you want to put the double stripe or the one with the stripe here on the edge of the unit on the arm that has that stripe on it. So pretty easy to get all that stuff sorted out. All right, so the drone itself, when I look on the right-hand side of it, you can see that they're calling it an ultralight, 249 grams of weight. That's super important because being under the 250 means that you don't have to register with the FAA. You still have to play by the rules. You can't be a knucklehead out there and doing bad things with it, but that does make it a little easier for younger flyers to fly it and also for people to not have to worry about registering it. On the bottom of the drone, that's the power button and power indicator here. There are 2 sensors down here. There's a pair right here that I believe are time of flight sensors, and then it looks like a camera in the center there, which is a VIO sensor, and I'll talk a lot about that in a future clip and explain what those are for. But essentially, the drone doesn't have any crash avoidance built into it, but it does have hovering capabilities. So if you're flying it indoors between this time of flight sensor, TOF sensor, and the VIO sensor, it'll give you a very, very stable hover indoors. So those two are super important. On the back of the drone, we've got a door here that opens up. That's the battery compartment. The batteries are keyed, so you can't put them in backwards. You'll see a little tab on the top. On the back end of that are connectors here that marry up with those connections there. So you'll slide the battery in this way. And when you slide the battery in, listen carefully. Here, click. You want to make sure the battery's all the way in and clicks closed. And there's a little latch on the bottom that actually holds it into the battery case. The second thing that's really important is to make sure when you close this door, that you close that all the way, because I'm sure that if this is open, when you start these propellers up, this thing's going to start flapping like crazy. So make sure that's closed and you'll be in good shape. On the back, you've got two connections here, or two ports here. This is for the micro SD card. It'll support up to 128 gig card, so that's bigger than most of the other drones will support. It also has a micro USB connection here for charging it. Now, if you buy the basic kit, you can actually charge the battery in the drone. So you connect this up to the charger, it'll charge in the drone. If you buy the Fly More kit, you're going to get a hub, if you will, that all the batteries fit into that you can charge them at the same time. And I'll show you that in a little bit. All right, on this side, on the front, I should say, I've got the Mavic Mini logo over here. I've got, looks like two sensors up front. Those are kind of fake outs. There's not actually a sensor in there. I believe those are vents to let air through it. You've got vents on the side as well. So I imagine the airflow is going to be through this, probably across the printed circuit board on the top and then back out here. On the front, this is the gimbal lock. I'll show you how that comes off. This is super important that you keep it on the drone when you're transporting it because that gimbal is going to bounce around inside there, and the gimbal assembly itself and the camera too are very, very sensitive. So if they're rattling around inside of a bag, you're going to eventually damage some stuff inside there. To take this thing off, just pull back on that tab and lift it off and it pops off. You'll notice there are 2 feet right here. Those fit in the front underneath like this, and then it just slides back and clicks in just like that. So once you get that in, you're good to go. And that's pretty much it for the drone. Now I'm going to spend a little bit more time in the next clip going through some of the technology behind what this drone can do, but that's a basic outlook of the drone. Oh, one other thing I wanted to point out, I should have mentioned this before. You'll notice tiny little wires going up into these front legs here. I don't know if you can see that or not, but there's a wire going up there and a wire going up there. What that is connecting to is the antenna. So the transmit and receive antennas are in these 2 front feet. So the 5.8 gigahertz frequency that it's using to actually transmit comes in through those front 2 feet. So you make sure you have those arms fully extended because that's where the signal is being picked up from the drone. Okay, so let's move on. And next we'll take a look at the controller. The remote controller for the Mavic Mini is really similar to all the controllers they've used on the other Mavic products and even the Spark product. Now, I'm going to have to put it up against the other remotes to check it, but to my hands, it feels about the exact same size as the other one, so maybe they're sticking with the same form factor. I have to say that I think this is a really clever design, and I've said that before when they first came out with it with the original Mavic Pro, because it's really difficult to build a controller that's big enough to feel comfortable in your hands, but not too big that it's not really portable. And a lot of other companies get that wrong. They either make it too small and it's hard to hold it, or it's too big and it's really difficult to put in a bag. I think by having this foldable design, they've really covered all their bases. So let me go through what these functions are on the top first. So on the right, I've got a button here for power on, power off. The way you turn the unit on is you'll tap it and then hold it. You'll notice the LEDs will strobe up. You'll hear a sound, you'll know it's powered up. On the left-hand side, you've got a return to home button. That's your emergency button. So if you're out flying and you get into trouble out there and you want the drone to come home and land, hold that button. It'll actually start beeping, and then the drone will elevate to the height you've set in the application. It'll find its way home, and it'll land almost exactly where it took off. In the center, there are 4 LEDs that have a couple of different functions. Initially, when the unit's powered off, if you tap it, it'll tell you how much of a charge the controller has. Right now, I've got 4 LEDs on. Each one of those represents a 25% charge, so obviously that's 100%. If 3 are lit, it's 75, 2 are lit, it's 50, and 1 is lit, it's 25. So that's the first function. The second function lets you know that you're powering it up. So when you tap this and then hold it, you'll see them strobe up till it gets to the top. That means it's ready to go, and it'll make a beep and actually power up. The third function they have is once you power this up and power up the quad, these will strobe a couple of minutes while it's doing a synchronization with the quad. Because remember, the controller and the quad have a choice of a wide range of 5.8 gigahertz frequencies. And what the controller does is check the area you're in for the cleanest frequency, the one that's got the least amount of interference, and it negotiates with the quad to tell the quad, I'm going to talk to you on this exact frequency. Are you listening to me? And once they marry up and they synchronize, this will stay on, and you'll know that you've got synchronization. So really clever, they're using one display for all 3 of those functions. On the top of the unit, we've got a set of antennas. I'll talk about those in a minute. You've also got 2 buttons. This one will take pictures. This one will start video recording. So if you get to a spot where you're really in a beautiful place, you can hit this and take a picture, or you can start your recording there. This wheel over here, the thumb wheel, controls the attitude of the actual camera. So as you spin that, the camera will look down or look up, so you can make adjustments as needed. Now the antennas are in the lock position right now. So you can notice they seem like one antenna. To unlock them, you just push up gently and they'll split, and then you can stand them up. Now, you want to make sure that when you put the antennas up, there's been a lot of conversations around the correct positioning for these, but you essentially want them to be flat like this, and when you're flying, you kind of want them tilted a little bit like this, or even here, facing your quad, because they're polar antennas and there's a radiation pattern that develops between them. The best possible radiation pattern downfield is to have both of them flat and parallel with each other. You don't want them in like that and all kinds of wonky, because that's going to give you all kinds of weird patterns. So try and get them as parallel as you can and facing downfield, because the radiation off that flat side is going to give you the best signal downfield. Now when you're done for the day, you want to make sure you close them up and lock them. A lot of people forget to do this, and these are easy to crack. So if you throw this in your bag and it's not locked, good chance you're going to break that at the base. So spin that one down, lay it flat, spin that one down, just line them up, and you'll hear the click, and now they're locked. Because in the top of these, you'll see there's, I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's a little divot there, and there's a little notch right there, a little thing sticking out there that actually marry up when you close it up. So keep those locked. All right, on the right-hand side, nothing. On the bottom, really nothing. Now what's interesting is, and I'll point that out when I get to it, let me let that go for now. On this side is where you make your connection to your phone. So there's a micro USB connection there, and the unit comes with 3 cables, and you have a choice between USB-C, micro, and Apple. And depending on what phone you're using, you're going to basically snap this in the side, make the connection for the USB-C here, and then you'll open up the bottom and connect this up to your phone. Now the handles are interesting because they're rubber coated, they're really nice and grippy, and you might be wondering about these 2 joysticks on the top, and you're probably thinking, my goodness, I don't have to fly this thing with my thumbs on here. No, you don't actually have to do that. They've actually hidden the joysticks themselves in the bottom. Again, that's what I'm talking about with a clever design. Here are the joystick tips. You pull those out, you basically put them in the hole, a quarter return, they'll spin in nice and tight, and you're good to go. And again, what a portable unit, because when it's fully open, look how big that is, right? It's a good size remote. It's totally comfortable in your hands, yet it folds up to a really small package. All right, so on the bottom of the unit, I was going to mention this a minute ago, and some of the other remotes had a full-size USB-A connection down here. They've eliminated that. And again, I think they're trying to keep the cost down. There really is no reason for it, because you can use this for connection. So you'll pull this through, and then if you want, really neaten things up, you can actually, oops, sorry, you pulled it through here, pull it through there. You can neaten it up by actually pushing it down in that channel. And then it'll stay there, because you're not going to change, typically you're not going to change different phones. You're going to fly with either an Apple phone or an Android phone. It's going to be the same connector every time. And when you're ready to fly, you basically plug your phone in here, slide your phone in between these 2 arms, and you can put a really wide phone in here. Actually, this will hold an iPad Mini 4, believe it or not. And again, the clever design, this slot in the side, the arms of that iPad Mini 4 poke up through those end pieces there, and you can make the connection and actually sit it in there. But it'll hold really wide phones. I think it's a 6.5-inch width on the phones and about 1/3 of an inch thickness. And if you're using a case that's a little bit larger than that and you can't squeeze it in there, you can always go at these rubber inserts here with a file or a Dremel to make them a little larger to actually hold that phone. So there's a lot of things you can do to make the adjustments. And that's pretty much it for the remote. Again, very comfortable to use. The buttons fall naturally where you need them. The underneath buttons where your pictures are here and your wheel is there. And again, you'll get used to this in no time. And that's pretty much it for the remote. Here are a few more of the components that are included in each of the packages. On the left is a propeller replacement kit. If you buy the basic package, inside you'll find 1 complete kit that includes everything you see on the table. If you buy the Fly More combination, that includes 3 of these kits. Now when it's time to change out your props and you tear open the kit, the first thing you're going to probably notice is this incredibly tiny instruction manual, because I guess when they shrunk the quad, they shrunk everything, including the instruction manual. But on here are diagrams showing you exactly what you need to do to change out the props. And the good news is, for older guys like me that don't have perfect eyesight, it's a pretty intuitive process. Essentially, you're going to use the screwdriver that comes with both packages to back out the screws on the set of props you want to change. Now, if you've nicked one prop and you're changing it out, I recommend you change both of them. Just a good practice to always use new props together. So back out both of those screws, throw the props out, and throw the screws out, and I'll explain that in a minute. Inside the package, you have a set of clockwise and counterclockwise props. It's extremely important that you match up the props you're replacing with the ones you pulled off the quad. So when you're pulling those props off, take notice of how many stripes there are in the end. If you've got a prop coming off that's got a single stripe, use these. If it's a dual stripe, use those. And if you, for some reason, decide it's a good idea to pull all the props off the quad and you forget where they go, don't worry, because the dual stripe prop has a little nick down the end here, a little line, and you can line that up with the arms on the quad that has a line on it as well. So you'll always know where these guys go. Put a set of those on both of those arms, and then the other 2 arms use these. Now the reason you want to change the screws out, and I think it's really nice to give us 6 screws here because you only need 4 to put the props on, and these are incredibly tiny, so is the screwdriver. And a guy like me, I'm sure I'm going to lose one of those. I'll drop it, it'll roll to some dark corner in the shop, and I'll never find it. So it's nice they gave us 6 because I can lose 1, lose 2, and still have enough to bolt them on. But the reason you want to use the new screws is because if you look closely at this, and I'm sure I can't pick this up on the camera, but at the very, I had to put my glasses on to see this actually, on the very end of this is a little bit of a blue tint. And what that means is DJI has applied a little bit of blue Loctite to the end of that screw. Now, if you're not familiar with Loctite, it's a chemical composition that turns into an adhesive when it gets warm. And when you're tightening down these screws, you're compressing the screw, you've got torque going on, and that heat is going to activate that adhesive. And if you back out the screws, that adhesive is gone. There's no way to reactivate that adhesive. So using the old screws will hold the propellers on there, but you have to remember that the amount of vibration and torque up there at 100 feet in the air when this thing's flying like crazy, you want to have as much tightness, if you will, between the propeller and the base as possible. So using these new screws, as you tighten them, you'll activate that Loctite adhesive, and it'll actually hold it a lot tighter than it would without the adhesive. One other thing I'll mention, don't crank these things down too far. The propellers will actually spin once that screw is tight because they have to be able to flip around. So it's not like when you tighten them down, this should be rigid. It's going to actually spin. So just tighten them down till they're finger tight and you'll be fine. All right, so inside the kit, again, with the fly mower, you'll get 3 of these kits. On the basic kit, you'll get 1 of them. You'll also get the screwdriver, which is a really nice touch because that's a tiny Phillips head on the end of that. So it's nice that they include that. They also include 2 joystick tops. Now, I don't take these off the controller. These are for the controller, obviously. A lot of people like to take these off the controller. I think the challenge there is, I promise you, you're going to lose them because you're going to typically take them off the controller in the afternoon. Sun's going down, you're probably in a field with really tall grass, and if you drop them, you're going to be searching for hours trying to find them. So it's really nice they give you an extra set so that when you lose them, and you will, you've got an extra set there to replace them. The charger comes with the kit. If you buy the basic kit, you'll get 1 charging cable, which is a micro USB to USB-A. In the basic kit, you're going to plug this into the quad, plug this into the charger, plug it into the wall, and you'll charge your batteries there. If you buy the fly mower combination, you'll get 2 cables. Now, these cables look standard because they're micro USB to USB-A, but they're also quick charging cables. So not every cable can handle the current and voltage of a quick charging charger. So if you have to replace these, make sure you get one that's set up for quick charging. The charger itself is also quick charging, which means the charger typically is a 5-volt charger, which is a USB-A connection, but because it's a quick charging charger, it can pick the right voltage to quickly charge whatever it's connected to, adjusting the voltage. So 5 volts, 9 volts, 12 volts. This one will charge your batteries quicker, whether they're in the quad or they're in the hub, than any other charger you're using. So even though you can charge it from your computer, you can use your old wall wart charger to charge it, if you have a quick charging charger like this, it's going to charge it a lot faster. And boy, that was a lot of time saying charge. All right, the last thing here are the manuals. Now, I know this is boring, but you got to read through the manuals. There's a quick start guide that'll tell you everything you need to know to get this thing up in the air and get it running. I'm going to do a clip on sort of basic startup for new flyers, but read through that as a bare minimum. The Mavic Mini Fly More combination tells you exactly what you get in the box. I've gone over that pretty extensively. There's safety guidelines. This is a must read because it talks about safety procedures for your batteries, for your quad, how to store it, how to charge it, all the things you really need to know to protect your investment. So read through that. Mavic Mini accessory user's guide. So I talked about some of the accessories that come with the Fly More combination. There's a bunch more. I'll be doing a clip on it of things you can buy to add to your kit that actually improve your flight characteristics and the way you store it and transport it. And they're all listed in here. Here's the guarantee from DJI. Read through that because it'll explain exactly what the warranty is on the quad. And then this last card, I was looking at it a minute ago. I think this is incredibly cool. There's diagrams on here because there's going to be a lot of young flyers out there that like these kind of diagrams that show you good things to do and bad things to do. Like the bad things to do, the diagram's hysterical. It's got the props with people reaching in for the props, and there's actually a foot coming down from the top of that, like somebody would step on the quad. So don't put your foot near the spinning blades. Then there's a couple others over here that talk about don't fly it over heat, don't fly it near people. All good things to keep in mind. And then what you should do. Well, you should have a lot of fun with it. You should, take your time and learn the application and fly safe. So those are all really good messages to give new flyers. What really made me laugh, though, was on the back. And this is serious stuff, but I think it's adorable the way they put it together. So they're trying to explain driving is complex. So when you're in a car, it's a complex environment. Flying is easy. And that's so true. With this quad, if you get into trouble, you get scared when you're up in the air, just take your thumbs off the joystick. The quad will stay exactly where you left it. So if you're panicking because you're getting near trees or near some kind of obstruction out there, just take your thumbs off the joysticks and it'll stay where it is. If you take your hands off a steering wheel, bad things are going to happen. So they're absolutely right. Driving's complex. Flying is easy. I'm telling you, you're going to be flying this thing within 15 minutes and you're going to fly through every battery you own. It's going to be that much fun for you. But the thing that really made me laugh was they talked about support. Now, they're pretty good where they've got a diagram down here where you can actually scan that and get all the information you need to get in contact with them. But they have phone numbers, they Facebook Messenger, Twitter. You can get a hold of them a bunch of different ways. But what I found really interesting was the diagram over here. It seems like she's doing okay with calling support, but he looks very frustrated and he's got question marks floating over his head. So I just like this an awful lot. But anyway, that's the last thing included with the kit. So those are all the additional things that come with the kit. And I've got one more thing I want to talk about after this, but I really think they give you everything you need to get this thing up in the air and charge it and take care of it and replace blades if you need to, and even joystick toppers if that's something you lose. So I think they did a great job including everything you need. Another great accessory that's included with the Fly More combo is the travel case. It's built to hold the Mavic Mini, the controller, and your battery bank and batteries, as well as a few extra cables and filters. The product is made from a crush-proof material. It's water resistant. It's got a really nice textured exterior. There are 2 loops on the top that you can use with carabiners to hang it off your backpack, or use the cloth handle to carry it around with you. The zipper's heavy duty, and if you look inside the case, you'll notice pretty quickly that they've built it to be custom designed to handle the drone, the controller, the battery bank with the batteries in it. You can actually hold 3 batteries in here and another battery in the quad. And there's even room on top here if you want to add extra cables or filters or a cloth if you want for cleaning the lens. It's really well designed. On the top, there are little cushions here that push down gently on these products to keep them nestled in their little spots so they're not rattling around inside the unit. So I think they've done an excellent job of building a case that's incredibly functional, but small enough where you can actually zip this up, pop it in your suitcase, and not have to worry about taking up too much space. This last accessory is included with the Fly More package, and it's a set of propeller guards, or prop guards for short. It's an incredibly important accessory that provides additional protection for both your quad and the people around you. You basically snap these onto your quad, and it prevents the spinning blades from coming in contact with anything outside of the cage. So when you're flying this in the house, it adds a level of protection for the people around you, not having to worry about the quad actually bumping into them, but it also protects the quad because when you're flying it inside the house or outside the house, as you're getting better at flying the quad, you're going to bump into something, and by having the cage on the outside of those blades, it's basically going to bounce off the tree or bounce off the lamp in your house and not damage the quad. So these are something I use on pretty much every new quad that I fly, and I think it's a really good thing that DJI included them with the kit. I hope that video was helpful in explaining what all the components do and how they work together to get this quad up in the air. Now again, I've only had the quad for half a day, but I've spent a lot of that time examining it, checking it out against other quads, looking for features and functions that are built into it. And I have to tell you, I think DJI did everything they could to squeeze in as much technology into this tiny little Mavic Mini as was possible in under 249 grams. I also think there were shortcuts they could have taken that they haven't taken. For example, they didn't need to make it enhanced Wi-Fi. It could be a standard Wi-Fi transmitter that would have lowered the cost of the unit. They didn't have to build in fast charging. It could have been a standard micro USB charger. The fact that I can fast charge it means the charger's more expensive, the cable's more expensive, there's got to be Qualcomm technology inside of it. So all those little details show me that the engineering teams at DJI were really thinking about building the best value for the dollar for the consumer. And I think that's super important because I've been involved in a lot of engineering efforts in my career, and I can tell you that there's a delicate balance between features packed into a unit and price. So those are 2 metrics you've always got to balance. Is it going to be too expensive for consumers to buy it if we build all those features in? So there's a constant tug of war between the design teams and the marketing teams and the pricing teams to say, we don't need to add that, pull that out. We want to make it a little less expensive. The third dynamic, which DJI is dealing with here, beyond just price and features, is weight. So they've got to deal with a quad that not only has to be cost effective, feature rich, but light enough to fit under the 250 gram limit. So I don't know how they did it. And again, I haven't flown it yet. So once I get it outside in the morning and fly it, I'll have a better opinion of exactly how well it performs. But based on their history, going way back to the Tele, which they developed with Rise, their Spark, their Mavic Air, and all the Mavic products, all the way back to the original Phantom, I have no doubt this thing is going to perform. So once I get it outside, I'll do a clip and show you all the flying characteristics of it. But for me, I'm blown away by it, and I think this is going to be an incredibly popular drone for new flyers, even for flyers like me that fly a lot, to be able to take it with me because it's so portable and it's so feature-packed that it's just a no-brainer from a price perspective. So stay tuned. I've got a lot more clips coming. The next clip will be me out in the morning flying this thing. I'm actually going to put it up in the field, capture some footage on its first flight so you can see exactly how it does. I'm also going to fly it all over the country, trying to get different videos of farms and lakes and other things in my area, and put that together so you can get a feel for exactly what kind of video it can record and what the pictures look like. And then I've got a ton more clips coming after that. So if you're interested in the Mavic Mini, stay tuned to the channel because I'll release other installments of this series as I get them finished. Now, I did want to mention again, if you are going to buy this quad, there's a link below where you can go to the DJI website through that link. And if you like the channel, that'll help us a little bit with sponsorship. So please use that link if you're going to buy the product. I also want to mention, we've got a lot of unique accessories for the DJI Mavic Mini as well. We'll have those on the Drone Valley page. So if you're looking for things that go along with this quad to enhance your flying experience, you can check that out there. And that's pretty much all I had for today. So thank you very much for watching. We really appreciate your support. And until next time, happy flying.